country that this world has ever seen.
All right, what up, America? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Let Us Worship himself, Mr. Sean, please correct me if I'm wrong, Feucht, correct?
Yes, you're good. You're
I got
good.
it.
You got
I knew it, man. It's a weird spelling. It really is. Man, it is an honor to have you here. It really is. I've been watching. How long is that applause? That's a
No, I was listening to you and I was like, oh, it's still going.
That's a really long one. We just got a new board, and so we used to have this really good applause one. We've been going through a couple of them there. Anyway, it's so good to have you, man. Dude, I'm telling you, I have watched you from afar, and it's so cool to finally connect. I watched everything you did during the lockdowns and things like that. For people who don't know who you are and everything you did with the Let Us Worship and now you've got the Hold the Line things you're doing and all the stuff. Just got back from South Africa. Tell everybody like what it is that you're doing. Well, specifically during the COVID lockdowns, what happened?
So, I was living in California at the time, and I'm coming, 20 years of missions history, where I've spent time in the persecuted, closed nations of the world.
Right.
And really learned a thing or two, from the underground church and how they respond in seasons of crisis and persecution and all that stuff. So in 2020, when, our governor told us we couldn't gather, of course, casinos were open, strip clubs were open, marijuana dispensaries were open. They were all essential.
Yep.
The church was the problem. The church was the issue. The church was the super spreader. I just called hypocrisy on it, and I just felt like this is crazy. Not only is it unconstitutional, it's unbiblical.
Right.
Exactly. And so we just, we circulated a petition called Let Us Worship. That's really how it started, really targeting churches in California, in New York, people that couldn't gather. It was like basically saying, I'm going to take a stand for these biblical values, for what I believe in, for this in the Constitution. Hundreds of thousands of people signed it, and then I just felt like, man, we got to put feet to this. So we started the first ever Let Us Worship gathering on the Golden Gate Bridge, July of 2020, right after we were told we couldn't sing in church. And the next day we went to, after that, 400 people showed up. The next day we went to Huntington Beach, 1,000 people showed up. Then we went to San Diego, 5,000 people showed up, and it just was like God birthed a movement. Wow,
that's crazy, man. And like I said, it was so amazing to see you doing this stuff and things like that. You were telling me there's actually going to be a documentary coming out about that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we of course we had a videographer with us that did things like the recaps, caught the drama, when Antifa would come and when protesters would come, and he just kind of brought it real time to people, what was happening and the miracles and people running to the altar and all this stuff. And so we just had enough footage to where, these Vice, Showtime, all these guys approached me to do a doc, but of course they're going to, they're very biased. They hate the church. Yep. And I didn't feel right going with them. And then some buddies that were like really good filmmakers were like, we should tell this story. And so anyway, that began this journey where for over a year they've been working on this, and it comes out in theaters the end of September. It's going to come out in 500 theaters across America.
Wow!
And what's amazing about it is it's not a cheesy Christian film. We actually just got the rating back. I thought it was going to be R. It's actually going to be rated PG-13, really just because of the language of Antifa and the protesters. Right. Alone. And
so you guys are showing everything then. You're show the hatred.
We're showing everything.
They were protesting right outside earlier today?
Oh yeah. I mean, we've gone right in. Of course, when we show up in CHOP, at the height of the pandemic in Seattle or Waterfront Park in Portland, on their turf, we're like, this isn't your city. Yeah. We're going to worship here. So anyway, because of that, we actually share some of their sides. So there's some of the haters on there that are sharing this, and then you see what you see, and it's like kind of a cool story because it makes you think when you leave. Right. You hear all these viewpoints, but it's undeniable that you're seeing what God's doing. Right. So anyway, I'm excited. I think it's going to inspire a lot of people.
Well, I'm excited about it too. I hope it's coming to South Carolina. If it's not,
it'll be there.
Okay, all right, it better be
there.
All right. So before we get into like another dialogue, you also got a book that is not like the whole episode is going to be everything that Sean's doing. It's incredible.
And I'm also selling my firstborn child. So.
Tell us about the book.
Yeah, so this book is cool. It comes out in a couple days, actually, called Bold, Moving Forward in Faith, Not Fear. And what's interesting about this is I wasn't really trying to be controversial. I was just like trying to write the message of the last few years.
Yeah.
Like God's forged this in me, right? This message of being bold. And this book was canceled by two of the major publishers.
I heard that you spoke at Greg Locke's church and your book got canceled. That's what I heard.
Well, there was probably a bunch of things, but I'm sure that had some to do with it. I was with HarperCollins, right? They're like one of the biggest, publishers in America, and they were excited about the book. They were pushing me to finish it. They were telling me how they're going to market it, and then they canceled it. So apparently there's a couple woke staffers that complained about my political views or something, and it's another story of, woke employees kind of steering the ship of these giant organizations.
Did you add another chapter after they canceled the book?
Well,
did you add another one?
I think I kind of introed it. Like I feel like when something like that happens, of course, their desire is to silence you, but they don't realize that it actually creates more controversy and more people think, well, man, why did that get canceled?
Right.
Like, what's spicy? It's pretty, okay, people get interested. They're like, maybe I do want to read it.
It's so interesting because so many books that have been so horrible across the years, just debaucherous books that are written, they just fly off the shelves. But
it's unbelievable with them. Even in their Christian division, which I wasn't really in their Christian division, but they promote some of the craziest stuff. And I'm like, this, and you saying this is controversial?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We wore it like a badge and got another deal, and I feel like the Lord's going to use that.
Oh, I agree. Well, 100%. You know what's never good? When your nation's supposed authority on economic policy completely misses the flashing red lights of impending inflation. Now, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has finally admitted there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices, and supply bottlenecks that affected our economy badly that I didn't at the time fully understand. Well, Janet, who did understand, that would be real Americans and the people who invested in gold and silver with Birch Gold Group. They're protecting your savings from a highly turbulent economy by diversifying their 401k or IRA into gold, physical gold. And it's not too late for you to take action now. Text the word Graham, that's GRAHAM, to 989898 and get a free info kit on diversifying and protecting your savings with precious metals. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of satisfied customers. Text the word Graham, that's GRAHAM, to 989898 for a free, no obligation info kit now. Speaking of the Lord, let's talk Jesus for a little bit.
Let's talk Jesus.
Let's talk about church. Let's talk about all this stuff. So you're working or at least collaborating with Turning Point Faith. Mm-hmm. So am I now. Made the switch officially myself. And I want to talk to you about, we've really been trying to, some people would call it attack. Some people would call it flamethrower, whatever. I would just call it confronting. What I like to call woke Christianity that is going on. I've actually had a lot of conversations with, I don't know if you know him, John Cooper from Skillet and whatnot. We've had a lot of deep conversations about this. And I actually met John probably 4 years ago.
Okay.
And when I first met John, he was very much on the Christian side of that, which he still is, but didn't speak out about what was going on or anything like that. And we had good conversation. And I told him when the mics were cut off, I said, hey man, I really believe deep down that sooner rather than later, we're going to need people that are in Christian world to start speaking more about what's going on in our culture and in our society. Mm-hmm. And in passing, it was just kind of like, maybe we'll see. And then literally 2 years later, the pandemic happens. Right. And I've always believed that, and I'd love your thoughts on this. I've always believed that Big C Church has issues. And COVID didn't do anything but just expose what was already there. It would appear to me that we have, not all of them, there's obviously a small exception of churches and pastors and Christians like yourself that are going counterculture, but the majority, on the other hand, seem to be just buying this woke bias that we can't talk about anything that's going to hurt anybody's feelings. We have to make everybody feel good. We have to make everybody feel happy. We have to love the sinner, never address the sin, ever. What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear what you think is going on in the American church.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I think it's actually an incredible season, and I'll tell you why. I feel like the polarization we're experiencing is necessary.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, there used to be like a really big gray area, where you could kind of just stay in and waffle in and you could do whatever. Well, that gray area is shrunk. Yeah. And people can't hide anymore. Right. You couldn't, I mean, you were even facing these narratives in the pandemic. Well, if you really love Jesus, you'd, wear 3 masks and watch a live stream in your room alone. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, where is that in the Bible?
That's, nowhere.
Like, Jesus walked into sickness. Jesus brought the light to darkness. We have the Great Commission. Yeah. It's not us going into hiding. It's us actually taking a stand and bringing hope and healing in seasons of crisis. So really, people were confronted with their theological foundations of what do we really believe? I mean, for worship leaders, I'm a worship leader too. Do we believe the words we sing? Right. Like, can we sing I'm no longer a slave to fear and then be afraid to go to church? Yeah. Can we
Waymaker, miracle worker? Do we believe these things that we say?
And it exposed the really the foundations of what we believe, and I think it was good, and those foundations are still being exposed. We read about it in the Bible, in the end times, there's a sifting, there's a shaking, there's a great revealing of who the church really is. Right. And I mean, I get the privilege of, I've gone to, we were in Detroit last weekend with 5,000 people. I mean, this is our 160th city. So I get to see there actually is a remnant rising. Right. Yep. And the, for lack of a better word, the frauds are kind of being exposed. Yeah. And they're given an opportunity to reevaluate their faith. Right. And say, do I really believe this stuff? Because Jesus spoke to every single cultural crisis. Yes. Oh. Very clear. Yes. He spoke very clear. And I think that
they killed him for it.
And the Word of God gives us all that we need to combat the lies of culture. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And we just have to speak it. Yeah. So
no, I agree. And so I tell people all the time that I believe what's going to happen is I'm more on your side of things. Politics, I have no idea. The church and Christianity, on the other hand, I do not think America is dead yet. I do think that we have a revival stirring and brewing and coming for God across America, and then hopefully that spreads across the world as well. I think that we are entering into a very interesting time where I think that we had a lot of people, very much like, I come from the political world. And from that, I've been privileged enough to meet many people like yourself that come from church world. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, what I have found is that once you get deep into church world, you realize it's not that different from political world. Yeah. Church world, unfortunately, they've got their cliques. They've got their, don't go talk at that church, or, you can't talk to that pastor, or you can't do this and this and that. And what I see is happening is we created this fake thing of what a pastor looks like, or what a evangelist looks like, or what a worship leader looks like, or what a preacher looks like, or whatever it may be. And kind of like we're seeing in the political world, those illusions are being shattered. Mm-hmm. I think that we're going to have a very similar thing in Christianity. I think people are going to start to emerge that people never would have imagined, like, oh, that person's a Christian? Right. Wow, that person, do you hear what that person's saying? Yeah. Why is our pastor that's wearing the suit and tie not saying these things? Yeah. But this person is saying this stuff. I think that we're going to see a new generation of pastors, missionaries, evangelists, just all the above. I mean, I'd love your thoughts on that. That's what I see, and that's what I believe. I would love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's sad is no matter what the cultural issue is, whether it's, abortion or whether it's gender ideology or whatever, like, really right now, politicians are kind of the most bold. Like, I look at, for example, DeSantis or whoever, like, and I love him, and I love those guys. Like, the way that they're attacking the cultural issues, that's what the church should be doing.
Thank you. That's
and
what I've been saying for forever.
Yeah, and people, and I'll say this too, as much as I love those guys, and I've spent time with him, and they're great people.
Yeah.
But it's never a good thing when the church is following a politician.
Correct. Absolutely.
And so
yes.
and so this is why we like, and I feel like these guys, and I tell pastors this, I'm like, dude, I mean, how are we listening to, my friend Josh Hawley, the senator, talk about the definition of a woman? Like, he's speaking to Congress.
Yeah.
Clearer than most pastors are speaking to their church.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it shouldn't be like this, And
I agree. We tell me if you feel this way too, and if you don't, please disagree with me here. Like this is an open forum show. You can. I feel that the church is has been doing what politics has done a lot, and what I mean by that is. In politics, we see it all the time, this tainting of words, this changing of what things mean, or putting things like, oh, you disagree with me? Well, you're a racist, kind of thing. Yeah. Church world has started to seem like, well, we can't talk about that because that's a political issue.
Right.
And because that's a political issue, I wish I could, man. I wish I could talk about those things, but I can't because that's a political thing. And the church shouldn't talk about political things when I can go into what Thomas Jefferson meant for church and state all day. He wanted to keep the government out of the church, not the other way around. But it seems like pastors and churches and church leadership are using the word political, and they're just putting whatever it is that's uncomfortable to talk about under that category to try to wash their hands of it. All right now, every business is trying to nickel and dime you. They squeeze you to offset their increasing costs, and honestly, it's a mess. Not Pure Talk. Pure Talk drew the line in the sand and said, stop spitting in the face of the American public. That's why I switched to them. You can lock in talk, text, and data on America's most reliable 5G network for just $30 a month. Plus, get 50% off your first month when you make the switch today. Just go to puretalk.com and use the promo code GRAHAM. That's the word Graham. The average family saves over $75 a month. But if you need another reason, how about this? When you choose Pure Talk, you're choosing to support American jobs, not send them overseas to countries who don't even like us. You're choosing to support a company whose CEO is a United States veteran. And with Pure Talk's no-risk, money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Go to puretalk.com, select a plan, then enter the promo code Graham and save 50% off your first month. You can literally be switched over to Pure Talk service in less than 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com and enter the promo code Graham now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cop-out. I mean, it's like, oh, so the Bible and Scripture speaks to every area of life except for that one.
Right.
And the thing is that I think is interesting is that, people whine all day about politics. I mean, not only was every major leader that we love, every patriarch in Scripture, not only were they all politicians, Abraham, Moses, David, Isaac, all these guys, they were all politicians. But yet the Great Commission, into Judea, Samaria, go into all the world, preach the gospel, that is not something that is isolated from politics. Like, it's to go into
everywhere but
every
political
tribe and tongue. And so if we look at the political realm and what people have done is say, well, it's dark, it's hard, all the more we should send people in.
Yeah.
All the more we should engage. And especially because that sphere of influence, this is the thing that really gets me. The political realm regulates how all other realms function, i.e. the COVID season. We were told what we could do, what we couldn't do.
Yeah.
People didn't know who their governor was before then. People didn't know who their senator was before then. People didn't know anything, and all of a sudden they're taking orders from the political realm that they've refused to engage because it's a cop-out.
Yeah.
And yet these people are influencing so much of their life, how they do church, how they do, everything.
Politics is life. And that's what I tell everybody.
Yeah.
I have this conversation a lot with friends and everything, and they go, oh, I just don't do politics. And my response has always been, so you mean you don't care about your life? You don't care about anything that has to do with your daily life of how you exist? Because that's what politics actually is. And I agree, I'll concede that, yes, there's been a dramatic shift. Back in the 80s, nobody really cared too much because, one, we didn't have the resource of information that we have now.
Right.
But there was a clear separation there. People was like, we can be friends and not talk about this and not talk about that. But now, that's not the battlefield that we have anymore. And so we were actually over there on Rumble talking about this the other day in the story of David and Goliath. And I actually, even at 35, I'm learning things every day. And I actually had this, theologian break it down. We romanticize these stories of, all these stories in the Bible and all this stuff. And a lot of times David in that story is made out to be this scrawny little kid, has no clue what he's doing, and God goes down there and is like, shoot this toy slingshot at this guy and he's going to go down. When in the reality was, David was actually really smart, because back in those days, there were 3 types of fighters in wars. There was the heavy arms infantry guys, that was your Goliath. You had your archers, and then you had your artillery, which would be the slingers, right? The people that slung rocks and stuff. And these dudes were deadly accurate, right? So David actually had a slingshot back then. And so David knew, no, I got to go fight this battle. But if I fight it the way he wants me to fight it, this dude's going to kill me. Like there's no way. I got to go about it a different direction. They try to put the armor on him and he can't hold the armor and all this stuff because he knows that that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like the church has wanted us to fight the battle, and the government as well. They want us to fight and or talk about Christianity this specific way, to fight the battle the way they think we're supposed to fight it, when as actually what we need is a couple people that come in from the other side and say, no, that's not working. I think it's, and I'd love your thought on this, I think it's very safe to say right now that the way we've been doing church is not working.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that what you're seeing, what you saw with COVID, and the church in many places deemed non-essential, and they just kind of took that on and said, okay, you're right, we aren't. And I'm sitting here going, you're crazy. Like, we've been worshiping for 2,000 years through pandemic, through persecution, through flood. This ain't even like, this doesn't even rank up there on any of the world's, So I think that the cool church thing is dying, which I think is amazing.
So do I.
The fad Christianity is dying. The entertainment of Christianity is dying. And I think we're coming back to that Matthew 16, where Jesus says, on this rock, he tells Peter, on this rock I'll build my ecclesia, my church. That Greek word ecclesia means ruling body government.
Yeah.
I'm building my ruling body government, and I'm not building my cool church. I'm not building my, my latest fad. I'm building something that can change the earth, and the gates of hell won't prevail. So we're kind of, in many ways, I feel like we're graduating back to what we're called to actually be. We're returning to our first love.
Yeah, no, I think it should be that way. 100%. You talked about the church is looking at politicians instead of politicians looking to the church.
Right.
When I ran for Congress, I found this out. They tell you don't even waste your time going to churches anymore because they don't vote.
Yeah.
They don't care. It doesn't matter. Don't even, oh, that's great, you're a Christian. Who cares? Nobody cares, kind of thing. That's where we are. These are the campaign managers. These are the people that do this for a living. They know that the church has become so weak and so timid in the realms of what actually happens in our society that people running for office are instructed, don't even go there because it does not matter.
Right.
I think, to me, that was one of the biggest eye-openers for me when I heard that, because, South Carolina, southern state, red state, you think, oh, church should be a big deal here. Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah.
No, they don't care, because political people, and this is something, the audience needs to hear, they don't care about the church.
Yeah.
It used to be once upon a time.
Right.
That if the church wasn't on your side, you were in some serious trouble.
Right. Yeah.
And I truly believe that what you said earlier was so powerful. We have the church that's depending on politicians to be bold, so the church can start to be bold again. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe once so-and-so gets back in the office, maybe we can talk something then. But it needs to be flipped, and people like you are flipping that script back. And what does somebody listening right now that he sees what we see, they feel what we feel, what does the average Christian, and that's a weird thing to say, but the average church attendee that sees this, they feel this, they hear this, but they don't know what to do? What would your advice be to those men and women?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my advice is simple. I think you need to find people. You need to find your tribe with a like heart. You need to connect with people. I know the way even COVID rearranged things, where it was like, I became friends with people across denominations that I probably would never hung out with in church.
Yeah.
But the common denominator is that we were going to take a stand together.
Yeah.
Right. You may be you may not believe in the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I do. I'm a charismatic. You may be a whatever. You may be a Calvinist. I may be, whatever.
Expository, topical.
But it was like, but what united us together was, now it's time for us to take a stand. So I think it's important for people to find places like that, life-giving places they can plug into, and some of them are just popping up. Some of them are new. They're new, but it's cool, man. God is establishing a remnant. There's a remnant that's rising up. I would say find those people, plug into those people, and I would say, and this is not cliche. Like, read the Bible. Like people just need to read the Bible. Like it's unbelievable to me. I mean, it addresses every issue that we have. It addresses homosexuality. It addresses gender confusion. Yeah. It addresses addresses
even addresses free speech.
It addresses free speech.
Proverbs 18:17 is one of my favorite ones on this show. And it says, it's talking about legal matters at the time, but it's like the first one to state their case seems true until another person comes and tells the other side of the story. And even free speech, the Bible talks about. And I love it, because we have right now a society that is only letting one side of the story be told.
Right.
And they don't want people like yourself, people like the pastors that are trying to do the right thing. There were pastors that almost got and did get put in jail for keeping their churches open. Like there are people standing up, but we have a culture right now in a society that wants to cancel and silence those people, as I know you saw in your documentary. Like you said, we're going to see Antifa. We're going to see all these people that wanted to shut you down. Yeah. But you stood bold in faith, my friend, and I respect you for that. Thank and I you. Always will.
Thank you.
Where can people go to find out what you're doing and to support what you're doing?
Yeah, they can go on our website, SeanFeucht.com. They can go to letusworship.us to find our events, our upcoming events. Obviously, find us on social media. You can find the book on wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold.
And yeah, I think I feel like this is a really amazing season of awakening that's happening across America. I think it's starting small, but it's real.
It's good. Yeah, it's real.
And I think that now's the time where we need people, listeners. We need people, and we need everyone to be activated. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing I tell people, even if I'm preaching, like, gone are the days where we just wait for the one man to do it. I honestly think one of the greatest gifts to America, and you may disagree with me, but one of the greatest gifts was actually Trump not getting another term so that we could see how crazy things are.
Yeah.
And so that, okay, it's like now we all got to be on our A game.
Man, we all got to be activated. We're about to wrap it up, but now you brought me here. I told everybody, I said that I believe that Trump's greatest legacy will be, whether he runs again or not, or, none of it. His greatest legacy will be he removed the veil from D.C. and the government and what's happening in the states for so many people.
Yeah.
I truly believe that if the Lord only used him for that reason, I truly believe that's what it was. Because, dude, I was in the Army for 12 years until about 6-7 years ago when I got into doing this stuff. And I just did my job. I just did what I was supposed to do, which I feel a lot of Christians are doing. We're just minding our own business. We're going to go to church. We're going to worry about ourselves, let all the crazy people talk and whatever. Problem is the crazy people aren't going anywhere. Problem is those people are starting to affect our culture instead of the church. And it's time for Christians to get their head out of the sand.
It is. It's time for us to we're not called to be discipled by culture, but we're called to change culture. And so I think that now's the time for everyone to be activated. Meaning register to vote, read your Bible, be a good citizen, engage, stop whining on Twitter about how crappy the world is. Start doing something about it.
Victor Marx said it best. He said, vote your Bible. What does the Bible say? So look at the candidates that are running. What does the Bible say against those people? Kind of thing. And that's how you vote. And so anyway, Sean, thank you so much for being on. Well, we love what you're doing here. Well, we got to have you come perform at one of our charity events sometimes.
We'd
love to have you out there.
Let's do it.
That's it. Check out Sean, everything that he's doing. Let Us Worship, everything he's got going on. Go get the book. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you. I hope it gave you encouragement that revival is coming. That's all we have for this episode, and we'll see you again next time.